Okay, so the next sort of steps that we do is we start to look at how to use different pieces of software with Microsoft Teams. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about really before we move forward is about Microsoft Teams actually being a vehicle. Okay, it's the vehicle that we use to deliver our lessons, to provide the content, and basically enables us to be able to access different types of software, provide different types of learning materials, and engage our pupils. Now, one of the things that I've been people have been asking me over the last couple of weeks is about how do you provide the CPD on all of the different types of technology? How do you make sure that all staff are the experts on using this technology? And one of the responses that I always give is that staff don't have to be the experts. Okay, teachers do not have to be an expert on how to use Minecraft. Teachers do not have to be an expert on how to use Wakelet or Flipgrid, something that we're currently going through in a minute, because the teachers are experts at teaching pedagogy. We understand the outcomes. Okay, we understand what we expect our pupils to learn. And when we use Microsoft Teams, okay, as much as we've shown you hints and tips over the past 4 weeks or 4 sessions that we ran this, it is still a vehicle for a teacher to be able to engage their students and provide suitable learning materials. And that all comes down to a teacher understanding how to get the best out of their pupils. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you 2 apps. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and okay, bear with me. Okay, so at this moment in time, I think I've shared my screen. Now, the reason why we need to understand this as a vehicle is because what Microsoft Teams does is it gives us a variety of different applications and websites that as teachers we are probably quite familiar with, and it allows us to use them in a very, very effective way to engage our class, and sometimes a little bit different than we would expect. So the first question was, how do I get the analysis side of a class? Okay, so it's called Insights. So if you want this analysis side, okay, we simply press plus and we search for Insights, and it's just here. Now, Microsoft have also released a statement saying that this is going to go into much more detail, this app, in the future, in the next couple of weeks, where it's going to give teachers a lot more tools on how students are using this. But just to show you how it looks again, for anybody who hasn't seen that at this moment, it gives you a list of your pupils, it gives you the digital activity, and it will also tell you who's been accessing the work. Now, obviously, this is a dummy class, so please don't think that 0% of my class have been accessing the work. But just to show you, so that's today. If I do all time, it'll give you a little bit more detail that 20% that this student, which is showcase 1, has accessed it on the 5th of June, the 9th of June, and if we drill down, we can see so much more information there about that. We can find information about average grades, we can go on to that student in particular, and that's the way that, well, one of the ways that we use to track our students. Now, obviously, that this is a little plus symbol here, and when I clicked that, we noticed that there was quite a lot of different apps that are available within Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to show you 2 today that we have used within Ribblesdale quite effectively. And the first one we're going to look at is called Wakelet. Okay, which is just here. And what I've done is I've actually taken an example of how it's been used, and this is how it has been used within our school. Now, within the last term, we always do a sports day for our pupils, and obviously this is something that they tend to look forward to. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to basically still, if possible, to continue a sports day as such, okay, where the pupils can all participate, they can join in together, and they can all win house points for their teams. So this is an exact copy of one of the statements that we've put into the classes, and if I just click onto it, I'll show you what it looks like first before I show you how you develop it. So what it basically does is it gives you a very simple interface. Okay, and it allows you to basically provide a lot of different learning materials in quite a nice way of how something would look. Okay, so as you can see at the moment, we've got quite a lot of different things here. So this is the Ribblesdale House competition, the Lockdown Olympics, and we've got some instructions there, some challenge instructions which are from an image, and then we have a picture of Mr. Hewitson himself performing the activity. Okay, and it gives the instructions for our pupils, and as you can see, the information is there for our students. Okay, and once they finish that, we can then use a Microsoft form, okay, where we are basically collecting the information and the data from that pupil, and we can basically ask them the different form groups and the things that they've done. And that is something that we've wanted to continue within Ribblesdale. So once again, Teams is being used as that vehicle to access other types of resources that are available. So how do we access Wakelet? Okay, first of all, I will just show you, this is a PE colleague of ours, and if I just show you kind of how this looks at the moment. So as you can see, these are all of our lockdown events that we currently have at the moment, currently 7 in there. Okay, and we are just producing them for students to work on it when, or actually a lot more, as you can see, 13 at the moment. And we also have a guide which Becky has said that I am more than welcome to send out to you at the end of this session. And we can click on them and they will basically give you the same information. Now the thing is this is super easy to create. So to do that, we go to first of all, the website, which we'd call Wakelet. And when you get to Wakelet, you will basically see, okay, something that looks very similar to this. Okay, and all we need to do is press plus. Now, because you are using it through a Microsoft product, you don't even need to remember your usernames and passwords. You just basically say log in with Microsoft, and it will take in your school credentials or my test one that I'm currently using to be able to make sure it knows who you are and how to store that information. Now, this is an extremely easy way to add things. Okay, so what they basically called is they're called separate cards, and you can just add anything that you want to as a card. So for example, upload an image. If I was continuing one from a sports day, okay, we can upload, or we can use one from the vast library that they've got. Since it was the start of the football yesterday, and I was watching that, I will go with this topic at the moment. Okay, and you can pick an image and I can add it. Okay, and up here at the top we can add a background image. So let's just choose from library. Let's see if I can get something like a field. And what it does is it allows you to just add all of your, basically make it a very simple, easy accessible web page. Now what's wonderful about this is it's linked to your Office 365 account. So if you press plus, this gives you all of the options that you can add into this Wakelet. So we can add text if we want, we can add YouTube videos, we can add tweets that we think that pupils might find appropriate. We can add bookmarks. Now bookmarks are basically other Wakelets that you have found useful. So if I wanted to add a bookmark, I could simply add how Becky's is there, and I can press add, and as you can see, it just puts in that card. So if a pupil wants to, they can click that and they can go to another Wakelet. And then we can go to different websites or links. So for example, I might decide I want to go to BBC News, and all I would need to do is copy my link, and I can just go back to my Wakelet and I can paste it in, and as you can see, it automatically generates that card for pupils. Now the great thing about it as well is it brings in its kind of the little description with it, but sometimes we don't like it, so we can change it if you don't think that's suitable. It tries to help you save you a little bit of time on the workload, but sometimes they're not appropriate, and you just might want to add something else. and it gives you the ability to do that. And as you can see, we've got different images. So for example, we can upload once again an image or anything that you might have on a website. It links to your OneDrive through your Office 365. So if I click my Office 365, we can go to OneDrive. The only thing I would suggest about that is you need to make sure that your security settings are correct within your OneDrive. Okay, so that's a way that you can share different files to pupils about that. And then the last one is this one, which is a video. So this actually connects to another website which is called Flipgrid. And what we do is we just click video, and basically we would have to allow it to use the camera and the microphone. And okay, let me see. At the moment, I think because I'm actually recording as well, it's making it a little bit more difficult for me to accept this. Okay, but all you would need to do is press allow, and it gives you a video recording straight away. I will show you how this works when I'm showing you Flipgrid, but it's a way that you can actually put a video, or has that worked that time? Okay, it's a way to be able to show that video straight away, or if you've already pre-created it using the likes of Loom or Microsoft Stream, you can import that video straight away and it will be there. So the way that we've done our sports day ones, we've all contributed to the videos using Stream, and then we've imported the video in that way. And this is quite a nice way, and once again, it's something different for the students. And then once you're happy with it, you can change it to public, so everybody can see it, or you can have it private as well. So for example, you could do public, and then we simply press done, and now that has a unique URL that everybody can now access. And what makes this very, very powerful is the fact that we also have share. And as you can see, we have our Teams badge. So you can directly, automatically share straight into Teams by simply clicking it, and it will just connect to your Teams. It takes a little bit of time, but it will connect to your Teams, and it will ask you where would you like it to go. So for example, shared to channel, where would you like it to go to? Or you can even create that assignment there. Okay, but once again, it's completely up to you how you would run this, because more than often I've already created my team, so I just copy it and then I just paste it back into my team like that, as I find that a little bit quicker, and it actually just loads up here and then gives you an option to be able to click. Now once again, the great thing with these type of websites or these type of learning resources are the fact that because they're public, okay, you are able to search loads. Okay, these are all the ones that are there to support different teachers, and there are already things that are already appropriate. So it's, you know, you can simply have a search for the different things that are available across the website and see if there is anything there that might be suitable for yourself or your school, or just to get some little ideas there. So for example, some learning tutorials on Flipgrid, but I know that a lot of people use this as well to provide guides, to provide support, and just to provide a little bit of variety in the way that learning materials are provided. Okay, so that one is Wakelet. Okay, and once again, if you wanted to add Wakelet, and I will just show you another way of doing it. Okay, so if I just grab my Wakelet address here, okay, we can add a tab, and I'll just show you how easy that is. We go to Wakelet, and it basically says what's the URL. I paste it in, okay, and it should, okay, in a second. I don't know why it's not quite doing it. Okay, all it will allow me to do is simply press save once it's found out where that is, and it'll allow me to press save there, and it will just appear up here in one of these tabs. It did work 2 seconds ago, so I don't know why this is not quite playing like that at the moment. Okay, but that's the very first one, and I would say it's a very, very good tool just to be something a little bit different, and there was our example here. Now, the next one that a lot of people are looking at and enjoying using is something called Flipgrid. Now, the way that I can explain Flipgrid is it basically gives everybody within your class a voice. So once again, I will show you how it works first, and then I'll show you what the concept behind it is, and then I will show you how to set one up. So the very first thing with Flipgrid is it is basically allows pupils to create different videos, okay, but snapshots of videos. So for example, here is an exact one of the pieces of work what I provided to my pupils: safety, what should you do? And this was actually done within a lesson environment, okay, a standard lesson within school. But as soon as they walked into the classroom, I gave them their little sheets, and then they walked out within our school environment, within the yard, to create these Flipgrids. And the way it works is, okay, is for example, every Flipgrid. Okay, as a teacher, I have different grids. So as you can see, I've got year 7, and these are basically my topics or my main folders. And within those topics, I have different within those grids, I have different topics. So these are like your different units of work. So as you can see at the moment, I've currently got 129 videos here. And the topic that I set them was called "What Should You Do?" And I gave them a scenario, a very small scenario, of how to if they got certain, like a message through an email, what they would need to provide some advice and some guidance. And then what, bear with me, I think I'm just going to refresh my screen, because I need to make sure that we've got the system audio here. Okay, so what I've got here is I gave people these questions, and then they basically go away, and I've double checked these to make sure.
While using the internet to find out some information about some famous world leaders, you find a site with lots of information and you want to copy and paste it. What should you do?
Okay, so we have basically different ideas and different
Using
topics
the
here.
internet to search for information on the Great Fire of London, when you notice some more interesting.
So what this allows us to do as teachers is it allows us to basically, once again, provide a different activity for our pupils. Remember, it's about the teaching pedagogy. And what we wanted to do is we want pupils to be able to communicate and show their understanding in different ways. And often within a classroom environment, there are some pupils who can be quite quiet. And this means that they can go out and do that and communicate and show you their understanding in a slightly different way. Now, as a teacher, I can do quite a lot with these different bits. I won't go down, as I've checked the top 3, and I know there's information there is okay, but I can sort of hide. I can show it that it's active. I can share it, but I can even, when I go to different videos, okay, as a teacher, I can, for example, spark it. Okay, now what sparking would do is it would basically notify all the pupils on there and get them to start a conversation about that video. And I can ask different ideas, I can give feedback, I can email feedback, and I can do different bits and pieces to round Flipgrid to be able to communicate for pupils to show that they have an understanding. Now, at the moment, this is obviously a very good one to be able to use for remote learning. I know it's been used within MFL departments to be able to show that speaking and listening skills. So how do we set one of these up? Well, first of all, I'll show you how it looks like for a pupil. Okay, so all I need to do actually is click my code, and I can sign in as a pupil. Okay, so if I just sign in, this is how a pupil would foresee it. Okay, so they basically see the task, for example, year 7, and they see my activity, which is just here, and it gives them a bit of information about what I expect. Okay, create a small video giving out advice on what you should do, and with the different scenarios you've been given. Your video must include how your actions can result in negative impact and what advice you would give. So for example, all I would need to do is click my plus sign, and let's hope this works. So here allows, okay, and then okay, it's up here, isn't it? It's trying to use my camera. Continue. Let's just see if this will allow me to use that. Okay, it's unfortunately not allowing me to use my camera actually, but let's see if this works now. It just sometimes needs to go back in. And basically, as soon as you press that, okay, it should use your camera. And fortunately, I've just downloaded the new browser, and the image doesn't seem to be there for the camera. But what that will do is that will basically give you. I'll show you actually from a different platform. Okay, what that will basically do is that will basically give you a camera there and enable you to use that piece of software and it'll be a video camera straight away where the pupil can interact, and as soon as they're happy with it, they can send it to you. Now, there are lots of settings there when you set one of these up. So when you set one of these up, there are settings about security, about safety, and I can basically go into edit, and these are the different things that we as teachers we can do. So we can basically say the amount of time that they have. Now, this is an important one, video moderation. So obviously, how do you track what students have got? Okay, normally, okay, we always turn on moderation, which means that a teacher needs to okay it before it gets posted on that group. Okay, and once again, if the teacher doesn't okay it, it's hidden, and we normally have that video moderation on there only because there are some pupils who don't want their video to be shown, and if they don't want their video to be shown, I have a way that they can communicate to me to say, "Sir, can you hide my video?" and I will hide it for them so nobody can see it. But adding that video moderation there gives me that control. And there are just little bits and pieces down here, so we can add different attachments, videos, URLs. We can even give example videos. For example, in here, if you see, we did one for a transition for our year sixes, where they needed to produce a book review on a book that we provided for our students, and we gave an example that we found on YouTube. At least they were able to base their example on a modelled answer that we were able to provide for them. And there are just a couple of other little bits and features there, but once again, it's probably worth yourself having a little look at it. But this is a piece of software as well that can be used in so many different ways and is so versatile. The other great thing about it is that it is all, you can download it on apps. You have the ability to be able to share it within Teams, and it's just that integration. And that's what makes Teams a very, very powerful tool. And there are a couple of others that we have in here. Let me just show you. So I've finished the screen, but the people might have heard of, for example, Kahoot. Kahoot's in there, but it actually doesn't have to be a live lesson. It can be produced to the students, and then you can look back at it when they've done it in their own time. There's Quizlet, which helps with communication skills. And if you just have a little look at those tabs and just have the confidence to explore what is actually available, you'll realize that there are so many different ways to engage pupils within your class. And as a teacher, you start to build up your resources, and it can really save you time in the long run. And that is the end of my demonstration. So what I will now do is I'm going to just pass you on to Louise. Louise is going to speak to you a little bit more about live lessons and kind of how we would use these types of software as well within a live lesson, and where Ribblesdale intend to go as we start to move forward with live lessons. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, I have noticed that there are a couple of questions in the chat box as well, so we'll make sure that we answer those at the end of this as well. So what will the future of learning look like at Ribblesdale? I think because obviously now this week and last week, pupils are heading back to school, especially year 10s, and obviously in primary settings they're heading back as well. I think the focus is now moving on towards, what is it going to look like in September? How are we going to go about teaching pupils? We're going to have pupils at home, we're going to have pupils in school. So I'm just going to go through a couple of pedagogical approaches of how we are approaching it at Ribblesdale from a teaching and learning perspective. So like Lee said, we have started with the live lessons. We have done a lot of live lessons over the course of this lockdown, but we are going to start to move away from the live lessons from a learning perspective. They will still be there, but more for interaction, welfare, and that social element for the pupils. I think staff across school have done quite a lot of live lessons, and the majority have worked incredibly well. The pupils have responded, they've engaged with it. And I think it's been a bit of a godsend for a lot of pupils to be able to have that interaction with their teachers. But in terms of the learning taking place within those lessons, it's perhaps not the most succinct way of doing things. So we are going to move towards a pre-recorded lecture style way of learning. We'll be using platform Stream. Within Stream, a fantastic feature is being able to create different channels. So we will be having departmental channels. So for example, in English, we'll have one specifically for unseen poetry. We'll have another one for Macbeth and Inspector Calls. And then any resources and videos and lectures created by the department as a whole, once we all work collectively, will be shared within those channels for the pupils and staff to use them as they see fit as well. Again, it's just giving that central access to the resources, again, easing that teacher workload. I think there's quite a lot of anxiety amongst teachers heading back in September. And I think the more that we can do to kind of ease this, the better it will be for everybody. So looking at metacognition and self-regulation then, research suggests, that if learners are aware of the strengths and areas for development, they're more likely to self-regulate. And during lockdown, we have had a high number of pupils who have been successful in self-regulating their own work, and they've demonstrated high levels of resilience. But it's really important that we foster those skills with the pupils that we see, even from now moving forward for the next 4 weeks, and also from September. It's giving all our pupils that opportunity to be able to develop those skills for learning, but also for the things and the challenges that they might face moving forward in the future. On a recent webinar from Microsoft, Anthony Salcito, the Vice President, he said the hashtag of pandemic ready. And I think that's something that's probably going to stick. It's important that we get our pupils ready for anything, whether it's another episode of this or, anything that could arise. Our pupils have the best possible tools in their toolkit to be able to deal with these different situations. Okay, the next one is scaffolding and modelling. This is a great opportunity to develop the peer and social interaction and skills within our pupils. So just ensuring that our pupils are aware of the purpose of what they're learning, as they're more likely to be engaged and motivated with it. And providing them with clear success criteria, again, that will help with the peer interaction. They're able to communicate about their work in a really clear and concise and structured way. Again, it will also aid with that self-regulation for those pupils, and also the metacognition. They'll be able to see their areas of strengths and areas of development. It's really important within scaffolding and modelling as well to adopt new ways of encouraging the pupils to interact. Within this period of lockdown, our staff, and I'm sure many teachers across the country, have used several technological platforms that perhaps they weren't necessarily familiar with beforehand. I think it's really important that we still continue to use those within the classroom, and we bring that digital age with us, and those pupils are still exposed to all these different platforms for learning. Again, giving them lots of opportunity for that social interaction, and obviously the interaction that they've perhaps lost over the past few months. The language for learning, this is something as a school that we're focusing quite heavily on. The fact that it just needs to be very positive overall, steering away from comments that could heighten any anxiety and worries among staff and pupils. For example, we don't want to be saying to the pupils, we've got so many gaps we need to fill, we've got a lot of catching up to do. I think the pupils will already feel quite anxious about coming back into school. I think staff will also feel that way, and I think it's really important that we are really positive about the situation, and we need to recognise what the pupils can do, and use that as a real positive foundation, and use that as the building blocks to allow those pupils to see that they have got many successes over the past few months, and not draw upon those negatives. And finally, the reviews of schemes of learning. Obviously, with looking at this, we're now moving into territory of a hybrid learning environment, with a bit of remote learning. Some pupils will be in school, some pupils will still be at home. So our curriculum needs to suit the purpose of our pupils. So it's not just about cramming as much information into the pupils as possible. It's about focusing on those competencies and making sure our pupils know the skills that they need moving forward, and obviously skills that they can apply to different areas of work as well. Our curriculum needs to be conducive to remote learning, and staff need time to be able to do that as well. One key thing that did come out of discussion was the choice of topics, ensuring that the topics are that you are approaching are suitable for remote learning, ensuring that the topics that perhaps require a little bit more teacher support, or the quite emotional topics, or ones that require in-depth and monitored discussion, perhaps they are topics that need reworking, or perhaps moving out of the curriculum for the time being, just until you are actually with those pupils in person. So again, there's just a couple of things that we'll be doing at Ribblesdale moving forward, and how our way of learning will look from September onwards. Obviously, there'll be a couple of amendments along the way. We're always learning of what it's going to look like. I don't think anybody really knows, but it's really important that we, we're adapting to the different needs of our pupils and also our staff as well. So I'll just take a second just to answer any questions before I go on to this bit.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I'd put my mute off, but I hadn't. Okay, as we were just saying, we'll just go on to a couple of questions there. Okay, so first of all, is we have been trying to solve the issue of the difficulty about trying to ask questions within these sessions. We found out that it depends. Your chat pane will depend on the type of browser that you are using. So if you're not using a particular type of browser, sometimes the chat pane is missing. So if you would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand function, and we will certainly speak to yourself. So for example, at the moment I've seen that Jeanette, you currently have your hand raised. If you'd like to come off mute and ask a question, then we'd be more than happy to support.
Hi Lee, yes, thanks very much.
No.
My question was just, it was right from the beginning, and I'm just wondering, are we going to have access to this recorded presentation, just so I don't have to take all the notes I'm taking? So
yes, everything we do record, everything is placed on our EdTech demonstrator website, and this will be being continually developed. We are currently having more webinars in the future, but are more focused on certain aspects. So for example, just live lessons, just certain apps, where we will spend probably a shorter amount of time being really focused about something that we are currently doing at Ribblesdale, so that you might be able to take anything away that we are doing there and apply to your own establishment. So we are building up our website, and everything is currently available on there. I will send that out afterwards on an email, which I do at the end of all of the webinars. Okay, I did notice there was some questions noticed in, let's have a little look within the chat. So the first one is, would Wakelet make a good college newspaper? I think it would certainly be a different way of doing it. I think that often it's, when we're showing what's the capabilities of things, it's the way that it's the innovative approaches that people use that really do make these pieces of software shine. And I think within certain things, it certainly could be used for different things, exactly like a newspaper. Okay, bear with me. Any other questions?
There's just one asking Lee about, can pupils record and upload to this too? That was with regards to Wakelet.
Okay, a pupil would not be able to record on my own Wakelets. However, what we would do within Ribblesdale is we would ask our pupils to set up their own accounts. And that means that then they would have the same rights and privileges as ourselves, and we would do it through the Office 365 click. So they're bringing in all the school details and ensuring that the safety and the settings are there. So we would do it from a pupil to be able to set up their own Wakelet, which means they have all the same rights and not the rights, sorry, but the same cards, being able to record in different videos, and they'll also be able to produce those Wakelets too. Okay, we have two other questions. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so there is a question from Martin, who's currently got his hand raised. If you'd like to bring yourself off mute and ask the question, please. Hello, Martin. Okay, no problem. We'll move on for now. And we'll come back to yourself, Martin. Okay, so a question for Mrs. Berry. You currently have your hand raised. If you would like to bring yourself off mute. Hello, I do apologize. I do apologise. It's quite difficult to hear you at the moment. Okay. Okay, apologies. We couldn't quite hear you properly then. So what we'll do is we'll go to somebody else and maybe be able to come back to yourself, Mrs. Berry. Mr. Clark, do you have a question?
Yeah, hi Lee, thanks for everything so far. My question is just, you've moved away from live online lessons, and one of the things you mentioned there is that there was a reduction in kind of that welfare support. How have you upped that side of things so that you're still kind of offering the full pastoral package?
Okay, well, it wasn't that we have stopped doing live lessons. Okay, the way that we've approached it is there are two ways that we would look at it. So first of all, when we delivered live lessons, we realised that they were more focused around pastoral and face-to-face interaction, and that community spirit, you know, being able to see a face. And what we noticed is when we held live lessons, pupils, when they were on a call like this, they wanted to actually engage and interact with each other. And the live lessons that we held kind of went into that, where a teacher would be more of a supportive, pastoral sort of figure. So we would still hold those type of sessions where the teacher's talking to the pupils and ensuring that the welfare is okay. So that's what we would say as live lessons. What we've kind of done is we are thinking about rebranding them in a way. So because we didn't feel like those type of live lessons had the same educational value as we would also want, we've gone down a live lecture route as well, where throughout a school, we are currently in the process of scheduling certain subjects where there will be a live lecture. So it would be a teacher on for 30 minutes, and for example, they would be teaching a subject in science, and the whole year group would come into there and be able to access that lesson. And that lesson itself is focused around learning, which is the lecture style lesson, where the more intimate within class, lessons are more focused around that pastoral support. So I think that we've just gone a different route around it because of what we were finding about those smaller lessons within a classroom environment.
Yeah, Lee, if I could just quickly jump in there as well. With the live lessons, it was more of a case of they would not necessarily be used to deliver the learning and the content of the lessons. Again, like Lee said, they would still be used to kind of monitor and speak to those pupils on a communication level and keep that interaction and community spirit. But in terms of the learning, they would just be directed in a different direction. So yeah, they're almost in addition rather than instead of.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Lee's a question in the chat. When using Insights, are we able to monitor attendance to live lessons centrally across the whole school?
To live lessons, okay. Okay, good question. The way that I monitor attendance at this moment in time is when you have a student or whenever you hold a live lesson, there is a register option at the very, very top that you can download. Now, this is a brand new feature within Teams. Okay, so for example, if I don't know what you would see, so I'm going to try and show this at the moment. Okay, but at the moment you'll probably see Louise on my screen. Okay, but up here, okay, where we have a little arrow that allows a teacher or the person who's ran that session to download that attendance list. Now that is only specifically for that session, and the only other thing that needs to be you need to be aware of that function is when you leave the class, okay, as a teacher, you no longer have the ability to download that that session. Regards to admin, you do have a lot of admin privileges where you can see usage of where pupils are accessing and how many pupils are accessing different classes. But in terms of the live lesson section, at this moment in time, I don't know the answer to that, to be perfectly honest, as we only do it as a small at the end of each class, and we do it as a teacher, being able to monitor that, the attendance to that class. And that's what we will do during the live lessons. Louise might be able to support a little bit more.
Okay, another question. When you schedule the live lessons, do you do it through the calendar? If so, what do you do about the children joining the students when the students aren't there, or perhaps use the Meet Now function?
Okay, now Louise is probably more better in a better position to answer this one, so I'll pass you over to Louise.
Yeah, not a problem. So personally myself, I do schedule them through the calendar, and then add the Teams channel to the attendees. You can do it that way, or you can click the Meet Now and schedule a meeting, or you could put a post on to the group and say we will be meeting at 11 o'clock or whatever it may be, and then use the Meet Now function. One really important thing is if you need to make sure you're in the meeting with those pupils, and once you have left the meeting, if you have it in your calendar, the pupils are able to go back in to that meeting. So once you leave it, if it is in your calendar, once you leave the meeting, you need to remove it from your calendar so those pupils aren't communicating and having a chat room amongst themselves, and that it's not being supervised by a teacher.
I think just to kind of to add to what Louise has said there, I think as probably the best practice would be to advertise that you are going to hold a meeting at a certain time within your class, and then use that Meet Now function. That is an approach that I've used. But when you do leave the call, you use your three little dots in the middle of your screen, and you use this end meeting, because when you use the end meeting, it kicks everybody out of that meeting, which means they are no longer in there without supervision. But then as a teacher, you need to then go back into your calendar and take that out of the calendar so pupils are not able to click back on that join. I do believe there are more settings coming to that within Microsoft and Teams in the next couple of months.
And then the final question is, are you able to see what live lessons have been scheduled across the school from a senior leader's perspective?
Good question. That's something that myself I've not actually looked into at this moment in time, because we have not basically stated that teachers have to provide live lessons. We've left it up to the teachers toolkit to be able to say whether or not they've wanted to do those live lessons. The way that we will schedule it in the future with our live lectures is the fact that obviously we will then say that these are when the live lectures are happening, and then we will be able to see that sort of whole holistic view. But in terms of the live lessons that have currently gone on, to be perfectly honest with you, we have not been able to see that at a management level.
Okay, and then just before we finish up, I just want to take you through the next steps on here. So the first one is about reviewing the procedures that you have in place with a specific focus on keeping students safe whilst remote learning. That also might apply to reviewing the procedures you have in place when it comes to going back into schools currently with Year 10, or whether it's looking at going back into schools in September. Please direct your staff to the Microsoft Educator Centre to get support with Office 365 apps and teaching with technology pedagogy. There's so many things on there that will really benefit your practice. And again, please redeem the code that we popped out at the beginning, and again this will be sent out on an email after this. And if you do need any support with anything EdTech related, please visit the Demonstrator Schools website and register for support from a specialist school. Like Lee said, at the minute this is free from the DFE, so it's a great opportunity to be able to take us up on it. Our social handles are on there should you want to get in contact with us or follow us for anything, or ask us any questions after the webinar. Lee, anything else?
Nothing else from me, apart from have a good evening and keep safe.
Yep, have a lovely evening. Thank you very much for joining us.